throughout history, every religion has had items that they deem to be holy relics, whether they were possessions of or actual body parts of the gods, saints, or prophets of that religion. It's claimed that they have had magical powers, things from healing all the way to ensuring pregnancies. Do you know about any holy relics? Do you believe they hold magical or holy powers? If so, we want to talk to you. So give us a call because the show is starting right now. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Truth Wanted. I am your host, Kelley Laughlin, and I hope you're not sick of seeing me. But this is a live call-in show that happens every single week on Fridays at 7 p.m. Central Time, where we talk about what you believe and why you believe it. And if you'd like, you can call us right now at 1-512-991-9242. Or you can call us through your computer at tiny.cc/calltw. Truth Wanted is a product of the atheist community of Austin, a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to the promotion of atheism, critical thinking, secular humanism, and the separation of government and religion. And every week we have a special, super special guest, and this week is no different. And my guest this week is the amazing cross-examiner. How you doing? How you doing?
Hello. Yeah, it's great to be here. I'm not sure amazing, but amazingly pleased to be on the show with you for sure. I got to meet you when we met up at the Bat Cruise. That was the first time we met in person. It was a real thrill for me. So thank you so much for having me on your show.
I hope this doesn't embarrass you, but I'll be honest with you. I can still see your face. Your look of amazement when all those bats came flying out. That was awesome.
I gotta say, man, it was really cool. There's very few times in your life where you see something like that for the first time, and you just gotta revel in it because that was just stunning. So
it was. I was watching you look in amazement, and I was like, that had to be what I looked like the first time too. So
very true. I was just worried. I just didn't want because it's like 1.2, 1.4 million bats live under that one bridge, and I'm like, that's a lot of poop. I hope they don't poop on us as they fly out.
You keep your drink covered when you're flying out. So yeah, I really was thrilled to meet you in real life. So I was really glad you were there.
Thanks so much. It was much better than I thought it would be. I mean, I thought it'd be great, but meeting every person that was with the ACA and then meeting people who were just viewers who wanted to come along and hang out and be able to sit down and have a drink with them and chat was really a highlight. Really glad I went, and I look forward to next year.
Yeah, I'm looking forward again to next year as well. So yeah, I really, really am. So a lot of people know you, I guess, from our well, I don't want to say our flagship show because the flagship show is the nonprofit.
That's right.
But let's say from the signature show, the Atheist Experience. So how long have you been on that?
That's a great question. I'd say coming on 2 years, maybe. It's a while ago. I decided to start a podcast. It was basically the January 6th situation that really I had been pondering what to do as an attorney, and my chief concern is the rise of Christian nationalism that we've seen since pre-Bush, and that got heightened with Tea Party and then Trump and all of that stuff. And Jan 6 really got me off my butt and decided to start, at least trying to do a podcast. And then I heard that the ACA was looking for some people to help out, and I volunteered and started out on nonprofits and other shows, and eventually had the opportunity to start appearing occasionally on the Atheist Experience, and I've enjoyed that too. But I love all the shows. If I could appear more, I would. So let the producers know. I like coming on and just chatting with people.
I've really been looking forward to tonight, actually. We have actually worked together before on AXP, and yes, so I was really looking forward to it again. I actually have a relic left over from that episode, my mango on the show.
That's right. The mango episode. Oh my gosh, that guy. Oh, that episode was frustrating and hilarious at the same time. The guy just would not get past that we were fixated on the mango metaphor.
Yeah, it was really fun. And then when we used the mango metaphor back to him, it just went right over his head. It was amazing. It was amazing.
Folks, that's a lesson to you. If you're going to bring a metaphor, you got to know all the ins and outs and the ways that we're going to sort of playfully go along with it.
Well, you know what? Before we get too far into this, every week we do a question of the week, and we always have our backup host come up and do it. And we have, I couldn't believe we had the backup host today, but here they are. It's Godless Engineer, John Gleason. Hi, John.
Hey, John.
What's up, heathens? How y'all doing?
Hey, what's up, buddy?
Just heathening out.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So first time in the backup slot, really. So it's a little weird for me. But before we get started today, we did want to give everybody the results of last week's We Want Truth, or WWTT segment. And last week we asked people here on Truth Wanted, name a time believers don't mind playing God. And here are our favorite answers. First up, number 3, we've got know what says believers don't mind playing God when they water their plants.
That's really funny. 'Cause my stepdad, or not my stepdad, my real dad, when he was alive, lived in Portland, Oregon, and when he was watering his flowers, his neighbor would always come out and yell at him and say, "Hey, you're doing God's work. Don't be doing you're not supposed to water your flowers." So when I saw that reminded me of my dad. So thanks, Noah. I appreciate that. That was a good one.
Second up is Chuck Gados saying believers don't mind playing God when their daughter's first date picks her up on his motorcycle.
Is it playing God then Jesus Christ?
It could work both ways, honestly.
Right.
And then the number 1 from last week is Know What again, saying believers don't mind playing God when they take Viagra.
Wow. Yeah.
I can't disagree with that.
Any medical miracle, quite frankly. I mean, who says that the Jehovah's Witnesses don't have it right and you shouldn't be taking blood transfusions?
Yes.
Excellent.
All
from
right.
Know What.
Yeah. And so this week's prompt is, what is a job you could get in heaven? And so I'm really curious as to what you guys have for that.
You want to go first?
I have a slightly more serious answer. Do you want the serious answer or your silly answer? I don't know. I have a serious answer.
Go ahead. You
right.
answer.
So psychoanalyst, and here's why. Many people have made this observation. It's really stuck with me. If you have a relative who's religious, let's say your mom, and you die an unbeliever, and under her belief system, you're going to hell, and she goes to heaven, either she's going to know you're in hell and be horribly upset for eternity, in which case, not heaven, or she's not going to know you're in hell and not remember you. Therefore, she can be eternally happy, and she's going to need therapy trying to remember you. Either way, there's a problem here with this whole heaven and hell and who you loved and all of that sort of stuff. So maybe a psychoanalyst to help with the misery, or a psychoanalyst to help you recover lost memories. I don't know, but that's my serious answer. I think that's a real job that would be needed in heaven.
I was thinking I might be able to get a job as a halo polisher. I was thinking that if I went to heaven, I don't think they're going to give me a very good job. That's all I'm thinking.
Is that the halo polisher coming from rock polishing? Is that where you got that?
Yeah. I just figured I'm going to be on the bottom rung if I make it up there. So
I think halo polishing is really important. You got to be ready for all of those, Renaissance portraits that they're going to paint of you.
So,
how about you, John?
Yeah, what about you, John?
To be quite honest, I feel like I would have to go with something starkly different than whatever I'm doing now. So like, probably like, what's that job where feng shui? I'll be a feng shui guy.
There you go.
So I'll just be able to, and I'll be a total hick about it too, right? Because I'll just be able to, why don't you just put that couch right over there? It really works with the flow of the energies, Don't worry, I can see energies. That's what happened, that got me here.
Oh, that's great. I thought you were going to go a different direction. Say, I'm going to have to do something totally opposite than what I do now, which is I guess I'll be wrong in heaven because I'm always right now.
I mean, that's what I essentially said. I mean, come on.
All right. Thanks a lot, John. I really appreciate you coming up and doing this. I'm going to have you come back at the end of the show. We'll check in with you again. So thanks a lot. Appreciate it. All righty. That was
Love
awesome.
John. John is just an awesome guy.
Yeah, I was about to say, that was like the best backup post I ever had. That was amazing. Was not expecting that.
Hey, I've been your backup host.
Have you been my backup host though?
I don't know. I
don't think so.
I'm just trying to go
I know. I usually have a really, really, really awesome backup host. That's Eli Slack. I really appreciate Eli.
Yeah. Good Eli.
Yeah, Eli's freaking awesome. So, where were we? Oh, we were talking about you starting out on the show, and then you mentioned your own podcast. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it's the Cross Examiner podcast. I've been on a hiatus for a while now because it takes a surprising amount of energy to produce a regular podcast of any sort of quality. It seems that the AI sludge and the TikTok generation are not interested in the type of stuff that I want to do very often. I have a lot of followers, and I'm going to produce more content this season, but it's been slow to get motivated, quite frankly, because I prefer to do deep dive sort of. If you imagine the introductions that Rachel Maddow would do on her episodes, well, she'd be like, in 1928, a person invented the little rubber thing that you put on the end of your toothbrush. And then somehow she connects that through a series of interesting facts 5 minutes later to whatever happened in the news today. And she educates you, entertains you. I kind of like doing those deep dives where I sort of teach about things. But what I've learned recently is I need to get back to like why I started this, which was January 6th. And I think it's because I'm passionate about educating people about what things are and how their government works, how law works, and what civics are. I think we're missing basic civics education, and that's how we get election denial. And we have basic science education that's missing, and that's how we get vaccine denial and all the things that you see on Truth Wanted, where you get conspiracy theories and arguments from ignorance and things, those sorts of things. So this season, I think I'm going to be focusing more on let's talk about what is the Constitution? What does it say? In fact, I have this idea of creating a high school level ethics course that says, let's look at all the major clauses of the Constitution and what can we derive from them from an ethics perspective, like ethics through the filter of the Constitution. So I might be doing some of that on the air as well as some deep dive, like, hey, did you know why the Supreme Court can be the final word on things and why it's a problem with any given president says they're going to ignore it? Here's a whole history of that and why it's important. So that's what I like focusing on. So that's my podcast. And when I come here, I really, really enjoy hanging out with people like you guys and our audience and seeking people who have interesting things to tell us, while being open to being questioned, because we're all, should be a little skeptical of crazy claims. So having those discussions is a lot of fun for me.
Yeah, I'll agree to that. I like having those discussions myself. I find it very entertaining and informative too, because I always end up learning something, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Just prepping for this show on the topics you said you were interested in, I've learned a whole bunch of things today. So I really appreciate that. And
I was going to mention that you mentioned doing a deep dive on something, and we have been doing deep dives now. We're starting one regularly every week. We call them the truth bombs. It was Dan's idea originally, and he wanted to bring it back. So we're doing it every week. And I wanted to bring this week's truth bomb to everybody. So if you'll bear with me for a minute or two.
Absolutely.
I want to talk tonight about the holy prepus. Now, I started out the show talking about holy relics, and there are many, many holy relics that are associated with Jesus's existence. There's pieces of the cross, there's the nails, the Shroud of Turin, all kinds of things. However, unlike a lot of the saints that came after him, we don't have any actual pieces of Jesus's body. This is, of course, because he's supposedly ascended into heaven, and apparently nobody thought to keep any of his fingernail clippings or all the trimmings from his hair and beard. I guess nobody thought he was going to be famous in the future or anything, so they didn't think of saving that. But and maybe Jesus actually didn't need to do any of that grooming. Maybe he just woke up looking heavenly every morning. I don't know. But there was one thing that was supposedly cut off from his body that does seem to have survived. And that's the holy prepuce, or it's more commonly known as the holy foreskin. Now, there is an account in one of the infancy gospels, which would probably be a good idea for a deep dive in the future, but it's about the circumcision of Jesus. And this gospel was pretty popular amongst the populace. That's why it was popular until it was ruled non-canonical at the Council of Nicaea. And it was completely tossed out by the church. So popular was it, in fact, that there was a holy feast day for the foreskin that was on January 1st. Yes, we used to start every year off with the Feast of the Circumcision of our Lord. That was its actual official name. And every town that had a holy foreskin would bring it out, show it around to all the townsfolk, put it away back in the church. And yes, I did say every town that had one, because there were a lot of them. There were even possibly hundreds of these things. And you got to wonder, how does a story like this even start? And of course, it starts with the Holy Roman Emperor, right? Why not? And it's not just any old Holy Roman Emperor, but Charlemagne himself. And good old Charlie supposedly gifted it to Leo III, the Pope, when the Pope crowned him emperor. And it's claimed that Charlie got it from one of two sources. He either was presented it by an angel when he was praying, or he received it as a wedding gift from Princess Irene of Byzantium, which probably has to make it the weirdest wedding gift of all time. But that story is a lot more plausible than the first one, so I would believe that over the angel story. This foreskin was supposedly, apparently, placed inside of a golden cross-shaped reliquary. I always have a hard time saying reliquary. And it was actually included in an inventory of holy relics that was made in 1905. So the cross was still there in the Vatican. However, it was stolen in 1945. So it's gone. That holy prepuce is no longer around. Now, there's another story of another holy prepuce that was supposedly in the Vatican, and it was supposedly brought there by Saint Brigida, and that one was supposedly stolen in the sack of Rome in 1527 by, of all people, the Holy Roman Empire, and it was stolen, completely stolen, along with a lot of other relics. There is a legend that a German soldier was captured with it about 50 miles away in the Italian village of Calcutta. It was placed in the church there. It was officially was like the foreskin, the real holy foreskin. It was brought out every year and shown to everybody up until 1983, when it too was stolen. You got to wonder who's out there stealing foreskins, right? Now, of the hundreds of foreskins that possibly existed in medieval times, not a single example still exists, not a single one. As I mentioned, the two most famous claimants to the title, being the one true foreskin, were both stolen in the last 125 years, which has led some people to believe that the Catholic Church was behind the thefts and behind the disappearance of all the foreskins, for that matter, in order to squash the veneration of what they deemed more in modern times to be an embarrassing relic of the church. Now, I don't know if that would happen. Personally, I'm not sure the church would do anything in secret. How about you? Cross-examiner? You think the church would do anything secretly?
I could do a whole season on that. Yes, absolutely they would.
I thought that was a pretty good topic for a deep dive.
It's stunning. So, like, my first question is, and this is the stuff I learned, stuff you don't know about. I mean, first, I have this image of the Catholic Church like making it rain foreskins on January 1st because every town has one. So first, there's that. But then the deeper question I had was, if you study the history of Jesus and what people wrote about him and when, we see a pattern evolve. We see that the early writings of Jesus of when he was born and what happened when he was a kid, that all came down much later, and they get a lot of stuff wrong, just plain out wrong. The dates are all wrong. The whole story about a census and having returned to your city, that's all BS. We know that didn't happen. So it's all obviously stuff that was written after the fact to give a backstory to this Jesus character. And then there's this gap of nothing. And then as an adult, we follow up with Jesus, and now he's here and he's performing miracles, and tough Jesus is making whips and chasing money changers out of the temple and being a cool dude and healing people and doing a lot of nice things. But I've always wondered, like, if the stories were made up. So obviously nobody was writing anything real at the time that Jesus was born. Nobody's sitting there going, whoa, this kid's going to be somebody someday. We better follow this guy quick, grab his foreskin. So if that didn't happen, if they're not writing about it, there was no like, oh my God, this star came over and all these wise men came along and like it became news and that this kid is going places, then how the hell do people think that the foreskin was retained? Was it a Jewish tradition to keep the foreskin of your kid for 30 years?
No, it was
what
not.
happened there? Do you know?
Yeah, supposedly the mother of the man who performed the circumcision had a vision that this kid was going to be somebody famous in the future, and she preserved it in a bottle of oil. I can't remember what kind of oil it was. It was one that I had never heard of before. It was a weird one, but it was supposedly preserved in this bottle of oil, and then apparently passed through the centuries until it got to Princess Irene of Byzantium. That's how one of the legends goes. I'm not sure how St. Brigida got her foreskin. So wow. I don't even know if she was out there looking for was she out there actually hunting foreskins down?
These foreskin hunters, I tell you. We need a new Indiana Jones movie, I tell you.
I was wondering, you got to wonder if there's hundreds of them that, they can't all be real, right? But maybe they could. Maybe like every time he cut it off, he just healed it.
I mean, we have this whole concept that all things are possible in prayer, and people have claimed that they've seen amputees grow their toes back, among other things, recently. Go to showmethetoes.com, by the way. And that's not my site. It's just a whole story about a church. You got to see it. So yeah, absolutely. He could have sort of lizard DNA powers where he regrows his foreskin as a little side hustle. Just keep cutting it off. Mm-hmm. Selling the relic. Although I learned researching for this show, first of all, I learned most Christians don't venerate relics the way that Catholics do. I kind of knew that intuitively, but I went and looked it up. And sure enough, not only do Catholics venerate relics, they have a classification system. There are 3 classes. There's class 1, class 2, and class 3 relics. Class 1 is the body of a saint or of Jesus or something like that. So the foreskin would be we're talking about a class 1 relic here. Class 2 is the possessions of such a person. So the clothing and I don't know, does the foreskin become a possession after it's cut off? Is it demoted to a class 2 relic, or because it was once part of the body?
Though supposedly the older woman kept it, so it wouldn't be right.
Yeah, I don't know.
So
and then class 3 is
anymore.
Anything that has touched a class 1 or 2 relic becomes a class 3 relic. So there's a whole business into touching things with relics. So this would be a class 1 or class 2 relic. I assume class 1, but it is apparently a sin, like a very big sin, to sell a relic. And that led me to ask the question, well, if it's a sin to sell a relic, is it a sin to buy one? Isn't like both sides of the transaction to blame? But no. Conveniently, the Catholic Church says, no. It's not a sin to buy them. And then they proceeded to go around and buy a bunch of relics. So that's kind of convenient as well. So yes, it's a sin to sell relics, and it's a sin to keep them for yourself if you are not a true believer and you're not going to share them with others who venerate. But it is not a sin to buy them.
Well, it can't be because then the church would be sitting, right?
Exactly.
That's what it seems like to me. So
Exactly.
Drew Harrison said something really funny in the chat. Indiana Jones and the Holy Prepuce of Doom. I know. Eli said the crew. For the record, the crew came up with the Indiana Jones reboot first. I'm sorry, I didn't see it, but man, that was pretty funny. I got to say, the Holy Prepuce of Doom. So
That's
to
going to be
that one.
I'm going to make a. I'm really into board games, and now my mind's spinning on a board game for be a kid like an old 1970s 1980s Hasbro Monopoly like mousetrap game, something like that, where it's like a spinoff on Saturday Night Live of who's going to get the Prepuce of Doom, and kids, I will, and there's like this little plastic foreskin that you're chasing around the board. I think that would be great. It's holy. It's a relic. How dare you say that it's not appropriate?
I'm not going to say it. We should probably get to a call, though. Do you think?
Oh, sure.
You want to?
Absolutely.
Let's do it.
Absolutely.
We have one of my favorite callers, John from Canada. Him.
John.
And he says Charlie Kirk does not deserve all the bad press he's getting. So, hi, John. How you doing?
Kelley, how are you, man?
Good. How are you, man? I'm doing all right.
Excellent. Happy to hear that. And how are you, cross-examiner?
I'm doing well, John. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Okay, let's get to it. As you know, 2 days ago, the conservative commentator Charlie Kirk was tragically, viciously gunned down, and it's a tragedy. My heart goes out to his wife, his children, everyone who cared about him. But
to any victim of gun violence and their families, my heart goes out to.
Yep.
Good. Excellent. But what's really sticking in me is that you have people who are out there who are saying that he deserved it. And instead of saying, like, it's a tragedy, they're talking about his politics, which has no place in this scenario.
Does it? Because I'll ask two questions of you. I just want to clarify, because you said two things there. One, you said there are people out there saying he deserves it. And that's a separate statement from there are people talking about his political stances. So I want to clarify what you're objecting to. To be clear, as far as I know, I personally, everybody I've spoke to at the ACA and the ACA's, certainly their stance is there is no place for violence in the world, much less in political discourse. Political change through violence is abhorrent and gruesome and horrific. So I don't know anybody in my personal set of friends who are saying he deserves it. Now, I'm sure the internet being the internet, there are people saying that, but I would immediately block those people on my social media platforms, and I would ignore them as unserious people. So can we agree that nobody on this call, and I assume Kelley would agree, nobody here is saying that Charlie Kirk deserved to be shot? Can we all agree on that?
Yes, we can.
I'll agree with that.
Okay. So is your objection simply that now is not the time to talk about his political stance?
Yes.
Okay. Why do you think that's the case?
Well, he just said there's no room for violence in the political course or in the world. And we all have to unite here, because if Charlie Kirk kills anyone who speaks...
Whoa. You made a big jump right there. So I asked you why now is not the time to talk about his political stances without getting into politics on the show. We're talking in the abstract here. And you said, because now is not the time. You sort of repeated, and then you said, we have to unite. I'm going to object to that. First, by definitionally, I don't know what you mean. And second, I don't think anybody has to unite over anything. But what do you mean we have to unite?
I meant as a species. We're all one people.
Okay.
We should all be grieving. Now it's not a time.
Should we?
I don't know that we should all be grieving, John, but I think as humans, as a good human being, we can all condemn what happened. But I don't think that everybody needs to be grieving. It's like if I don't care for a person for whatever reason, that I don't care for that person, and that person does have bad luck, something bad happens to them, in this case, a death, it doesn't mean that even though I can condemn the violence, I can say that person doesn't deserve to have that happen to them. It still doesn't mean I can be apathetic about how I feel about them having to suffer from this. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's like if I don't know Charlie Kirk, I don't agree with Charlie Kirk. I actually have very opposite opinions of some of the things that Charlie Kirk says. So when Charlie Kirk gets hurt, I can condemn the fact that he was hurt, but I don't really care that he got hurt. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
I care about how he was hurt, but not that he was hurt.
Yeah, to clarify, this is sort of like the question of guilty, not guilty, innocent, right? I don't have to actively mourn somebody that I disagree with, but that doesn't mean that I actively wanted them to die. I can be indifferent. My heart goes out to his family. My heart goes out to his loved ones. My heart goes out to the world and this country that we are in this state. But it doesn't mean that I can't be apathetic about the individual, right? Like millions, 10,000 kids starve to death every single day on this planet. I am more upset about that than I am about one politician in the United States being killed from a just individual case perspective. Does that make sense?
Well, I'm not asking you to put your lives on hold for him, but at the very least, the people should say this is a tragedy.
We said that.
Yeah,
so
we
what you
agree with
said is that we
John.
must unite and that we should mourn him. And that's, I think, where we're disagreeing.
Right. Like as cross-examiner said, the fact that all these children are dying actually has a way bigger impact on me than Charlie Kirk does.
But he was a human being. It should be the same.
Yeah, no, well, not necessarily. I mean, if, you know, like, do you care about some guy who lives in Saskatchewan that you never met before when he died? No, you don't. I mean, you're apathetic.
Not equally,
that.
At least.
You know, you're apathetic toward that, and I just had that same feeling towards Charlie. I just, you know, I condemn what happened to him. I don't think he deserved what happened to him, but Charlie Kirk himself, I don't really care about. I really don't care about him. I care about the action. I care about the outcome of the action. I condemn both those things. I don't think they should happen to anyone. But I don't really care specifically for one particular person.
Let me ask you this, John. When is the appropriate time to reflect upon Charlie Kirk's political stance?
Okay. We should at least give it a year.
Whoa! Wow,
that's quite a while.
Wow, I would have given you maybe a 24 hours as something I would have thought about. Maybe, like, people might say, a week, but we can't talk about Charlie Kirk's politics for a year after he's dead?
Are
you sure that's what you meant?
Right now.
Is that the rule for everybody? Like, if your neighbor dies, we can't talk about their politics for a year. If any sort of, like, for example, we had what was her name?
So Hortman,
thank you, in Minnesota or Wisconsin.
I was going to bring her. If
she died, we can't talk about her politics for a year when she was assassinated. Why is this? Why can't we reflect upon somebody's politics after they've died for a year? What's the justification?
Okay. We could talk about his politics if it was equal. Because he's a conservative, people are turning bad on him. I guarantee you, if he was liberal, people would be saying he was a wonderful person, he was brave, he was killed.
Well, I would think that liberals would be saying that, just like conservatives are saying that right now. But I don't think conservatives would be saying that. I think that the people who would follow him and agree with him would be saying that. I don't think it would be like everybody just because he was a liberal. That doesn't make any sense at all. Does it really? Do you think?
Yes, that's exactly what is happening. It's a double standard.
Well, sure. No, it's not a double standard at all, John. It's the standard. People agree with the people that think the same way they do. So because Charlie Kirk was a conservative, conservatives are grieving him more than a liberal would. If Charlie Kirk had been a liberal, you're right, liberals would be grieving him more, but conservatives would not be, because he doesn't fit their frame of mind, just like he doesn't fit the liberals' frame of mind right now. And I just want to point out that the person who did this, that I don't want to say did do it, that allegedly did this, is allegedly a conservative.
Yeah,
So
and
I don't know how to frame that in your point of view now. So
yeah, I think that we should realize that there is this race to sort of point at, like, okay, the shooter was this, the shooter was that. And I think we can all agree the shooter was unstable to do this, right? Your claim that there is a double standard amongst somebody somewhere, the media or whoever the usual suspects are, about what's proper and how people condemn each other after these events and all this stuff is an utter false narrative. The conservative Christian movement loves this persecution complex they have to say, oh, well, we can't say bad things. All the bad things we say about liberals we're condemned about, but then you guys say bad things about these people, et cetera, which is not even what we're talking about. We're talking about not talking about Charlie Kirk, the person. We're talking about his politics. But if you want to go on the record, we've had Melissa Hortman assassinated, silent about that. Liberal judge had her son executed by a conservative. Nobody said anything about that on the right. We had the guy from Florida sending pipe bombs to the White House. Nobody on the right said anything about that. It goes on and on and on. So don't give me this false double standard narrative. It is horrific on both sides to attack the person and to say, like Charlie Kirk did, that, hey, we should bail out somebody who nearly murdered a politician's husband. But instead, we should revere him when he dies, that, A, we must come together, that we can't talk about his politics for a year, and that we must unite in mourning him. That's a double standard, if there's anything. So I'm sorry I sort of got a little hot under the collar there. But if you're going to bring this information to bear, you better be ready to recognize that humans as a whole tend to run to their corners when this sort of shit happens in a useless way and start pointing fingers at each other instead of really trying to solve the problem, which is we're in a state now where political violence is becoming more and more normal. And that is because on many sides, there is amped up rhetoric and increased threats to people's very being. And that is an unfortunate state of affairs. And if anybody, including Charlie Kirk, contributes to that atmosphere, we should be allowed to talk about that. And whether or not we cared about the person, we should be able to talk about his politics. Put another way, are people who like Charlie Kirk allowed to talk about his politics for a year after he dies?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So there's your double standard. I can't hear you, Kelley, by the way. I'm not sure if I'm doing all right here.
No, that was my bad.
Okay.
I muted my mic because I coughed. That was my bad. I was totally wrong again. Well, I got a really good double standard in this particular case, though. You're asking us to have empathy for somebody who said that empathy didn't exist.
That's true. That's true. Empathy is a made-up New Age word.
You guys do realize right now you're laughing about a dead man, right? You know how?
No, we're laughing about the double standard. We're not laughing at Charlie Kirk. We're laughing at the double standard, John. We're laughing at the fact that people, and it's not just you, it's many people that believe what you believe, and you have the right to believe that. I don't have any problem with that. Yeah. But many people that are on your side are calling for the people who don't like Charlie Kirk to have empathy for Charlie Kirk when Charlie Kirk said that empathy didn't exist. That's what I'm laughing at. It had nothing to do with Charlie Kirk himself. We were laughing at the double standard.
Excellent point.
Well, don't you realize that the freedom of speech can be at risk now? Because if a man like Charlie Kirk can speak in public,
I don't know how. How can freedom of speech be at risk now?
Define freedom of speech.
okay, and he's dead. Being able to say what you want to say without fear of being killed, like Mr. Kirk was. The whole point
That's not freedom of speech the way that 99.99% of the people use that phrase. So I suggest you rephrase it and don't use freedom of speech as a shorthand for that, because freedom of speech means, on the common parlance and in every possible way in public discourse, it means the government cannot control your speech. It can't compel you to take a position or to speak, and it cannot suppress your speech in a unconstitutional way, at least here in the United States. And other governments have made, interestingly, different decisions from a legal perspective and from a public policy perspective because of what you're expressing a concern about. Many other countries, in fact, most other countries, do not have the freedom of speech that we have in the US, exactly because of the political violence that we're seeing here in the United States. I'm not talking just about Charlie Kirk, but they recognize that hurtful speech is something that can get people very angry and can also harm people psychologically. For example, if you're in the UK, most people view it as sort of like a sister country. Everything's fine. If you go over there and use a racial slur, you can end up in jail, convicted of a crime, and stay there for months. That would be crazy here in the United States. So that is what we mean by freedom of speech. The government cannot come in and control you. What you're talking about is, I'm worried that we have such access to guns and such low mental health care in this country, and people are so stressed out in their lives about what's going on in this country right now, that controversial figures will get shot. That's what you're worried about. It's not freedom of speech. It's we're on a powder keg, and people who are controversial are going to be easy targets. Does that make sense?
Well, it's not it does make sense, but it's not the guns that are the problem. It's the people who are the problem, as you just said.
Let's not get into the gun control problem. It is one factor, okay? It is absolutely one factor. You can have the same societies around the world, and the deaths per gun per capita again, are insanely low compared to the United States. So one element, if you can't even admit that one element of the gun violence in America has to do with the prevalence of guns in America, I can't take you seriously. I didn't say it was the only thing. I listed a whole bunch of things, and you jumped on guns as if that's the really important part here. The important part is it's a powder keg. There's political violence, and people are scared of speaking out in a controversial way. And we have to address that as a country.
Well,
what's your proposed solution?
That people can't speak.
I think
what's your proposed solution? I agree, it's a problem. We don't want to live like this. This is not the country I grew up in. What is your proposed solution to this powder keg situation where people are worried that if they speak out publicly with their genuine, let's give them the benefit of the doubt, genuinely held, radical, somewhat radical, what people would call radical beliefs, that they will be physically attacked? What's your solution?
Well, this may seem a bit naive, but we need better people. I'm sure you two would never ever take
That's fair.
And shoot someone
Education
that you disagree with. That's true. Yeah.
I wouldn't shoot anybody that I disagree with. I agree. And I don't think you would either, John. I've taken calls from you over the time. You seem like a very level-headed person, if not sort of passionate about what you talk about. Most people I know would not do this. And I think most people who end up committing these sort of heinous acts, a disproportionate amount of them have mental health issues. I don't tend to run to the corner and say he was a this or he was a that. It's, okay, what happened in this person's life that led them to this decision? Oh, wow, they were radicalized by this organization. They were radicalized over here. They had mental health issues. You may have seen the video down in North Carolina of a guy stabbing a woman on a train. What do you find when you get past the finger pointing? Oh, his mother tried to have him committed to a healthcare facility involuntarily multiple times, and there wasn't enough money to do that, and he ends up killing people. So if you get past the finger pointing, if you get past the politics and you look to root causes, I think we can have genuine conversations where we try to come up with solutions, where we don't have to say things like, oh, we shouldn't talk about the politics of the dead. Well, people are dying every day. If we followed your rule, we couldn't talk about politics constantly. So I think we should instead talk about the politics and see where we can tweak them to come up with a solution where we don't have to live in fear that a bomb's going to go off when I go to the mall.
No one should have to live. No one should have to live in fear.
Correct.
You're right. I agree. Yeah, I agree. And I think we can both agree that extremist ideology is a problem, right? And I think what one of the things the cross-examiner was trying to get across is that because of the scenario that we are living in right now, our current paradigm is driving more and more people to those extremist views. And that's a problem. And unfortunately, when we have a country, and you're in Canada, so you don't really have this problem, but if you have a country where we have as free access to weapons with people who are extremists and are already hateful and spewing hate and are willing to act violently on that hate, that's a problem that those people are getting those guns. I'm not saying all guns are bad. I own guns, John. I was an avid hunter most of my life. I have a whole collection of guns for hunting. I am not against guns, but I am against hateful extremist people, whether right or left, getting guns when they shouldn't have them.
Yeah, I agree. I have banned on my social media platform over the last 2 days, I have banned and blocked, and my wife will testify to this, at least 100 people, all of them liberals. All of them liberals, not because of hate. I haven't seen too much hate. There was one person who came out, was like, I'm so glad this happened. That guy got banned. Most of it was conspiracy theory bullshit. Oh, this was a false flag stuff. Oh, look at this guy that's standing behind Kirk and he's doing this weird thing and where he's just adjusting his hat. That's a false flag. Like, I have no patience for this anymore. I have no patience for the bullshit, politics, self-affirming confirmation bubble that the social media algorithms have produced in this country, where the instant anything bad happens, we run to our corners, we self-confirm whatever preconceived notions we have by accepting conspiracy bullshit. We've got a gullible generation of people that have been trained by the algorithm to believe any sort of nonsense rather than do the hard fucking work of talking about the politics of this country. The politics of the country is the discussion. It is the lifeblood of the country. It is what our country was founded on. It is what our forefathers did as almost a pastime, right? Let's talk and debate about how to make everybody's lives better. So yes, let's talk about politics, but let's not shoot each other in the process. And I think we all agree on that. But when you come in and you tell us that we must mourn somebody who through their politics wanted to disenfranchise people, take rights away, imply that people were lesser than, cite the Bible that said, hey, gay people, God's perfect law, bringing it back to religion, God's perfect law is that gay people should be stoned to death. When we're advocating that, hey, I'm not saying I do it, but God says you should kill gay people. When they've got people out there making these stances, I think we need to talk about it, both before they die and after they die. I talked about it after Jerry Falwell died. I didn't mourn him, and I found that his politics were repulsive. Jerry Falwell did one great thing, and he filed suit against Hustler when Hustler satirized him with a rude cartoon, and Hustler won. So thank you, Jerry Falwell, for shoring up free speech in America in Falwell versus Hustler. So he did a great thing there, but I'm not gonna not talk about a person's politics because somebody else wants to clutch pearls and say, how dare you, this is not the time. This is the time. It's always the time. That is what we should do as a society. We have short lives. We're here to make our lives better, to make the lives we want. And if we want just people to get out of the way so we can live our lives, I want those people to get out of the way and stop trotting on those people who are less fortunate than I. So, yes, let's talk about politics. And no, thank you. I will decline your insistence that I don't talk about politics after somebody dies. Sorry for the rant there, but we've spoken a lot. We should probably let John reply.
Go ahead, John.
Okay, well, first of all, Charlie never said kill anyone. He was only speaking the truth, that men are men, women are women, and men don't believe in women's spaces. And if he wants to quote the Bible, that's completely up to him. But all I'm saying is that
he did advocate violence, John. You got to admit he did advocate violence. Making jokes about people who attack other people is advocating violence.
He didn't deserve what happened. We all agreed that.
That's not what I said.
We agree with that.
That's not what I said. You're absolutely right. Nobody deserves what happened to Charlie Kirk. Nobody does, including Charlie Kirk. What I said was Charlie Kirk did advocate for violence. That's all I said. He thought that LGBTQ people should be killed. He joked about the person who almost, as cross-examiner pointed out, he joked about the person who almost killed Nancy Pelosi's husband as if that person was a hero.
Yeah,
he did advocate for violence.
His followers to bail that person out and call that person a patriot.
That's all I'm saying. I don't think he deserved what happened to him, but he did advocate for violence. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I guess it's a sad day in America where anyone who dies, whether it's Charlie Kirk, conservative, liberal, or whoever, dies or violence is threatened, and people run to their corners and either consider it a victory. Don't you agree?
Absolutely. I think you keep coming back to that point, and we agreed to that in the first 2 minutes of this call. I think we're all on the same page. I just went on like a 5-minute rant condemning people who ran to their corners. I'm telling you, I was blocking people who were conspiracy theorists and celebrating him. Like, we're all on the same page about that. But that is a separate issue from the debate goes on. We can't stop every time somebody is the victim of violence, who is a political figure, for fear of offending somebody by continuing to talk about their politics. Because if not Charlie, who now? Somebody's going to take up his banner. Somebody's going to hold those positions and try to make that the law of the land. There are people actively trying to make this a Christian nation. I don't know if you know the context of hey, God's perfect law is that we should stone gays. He was addressing a fellow Christian, a Christian who called in or submitted a video of a woman who said, God is love. God doesn't want us to harm anybody. And he said, God's perfect law says that, and he cited the scripture, a man who lays with a man should be stoned to death. So his point was we should tell people that truth. And oh, by the way, that law is perfect. I agree. He didn't explicitly say, hey, everybody, go grab stones and kill somebody. He just said, oh, by the way, if you're a Christian and you think God's all about love, you're wrong. He also has a law where we should kill people. And oh, by the way, that law is good. And that is God's love.
Hey,
we have a name for that in this country. In this world, and it's called stochastic terrorism.
I'm going to cut you off for a second because I got a super truth here. We got a super chat from Kelly King, the Detroit Atheist Queen, for $10. After Charlie Kirk was assassinated, several HBCU college campuses received death threats because his platform targeted Black people, because it was assumed that the shooter was Black, originally assumed that he was. So that's the chat from the super chat from Kelly King. And my super truth for that is that a blue whale's heart is so large that a human could actually crawl through the arteries. So there you go.
That is great. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Thank you for that.
There you go.
Thank you for that super chat. That was Alabama State University, Hampton University, and Virginia State University all had to go on lockdown within hours after the Kirk shooting because people made assumptions, and I condemn that as well. They shouldn't do that. This is what we're talking about, right? Conspiracy theory, not only low information, no information conclusions by people, anti-factual conclusions by people, because it all serves their own self-confirmation bubble of I'm right, everybody else is wrong. If you're wrong, then you hate me and you're a lesser than.
Right.
And that is what we're dealing with talking about the politics of those who support somebody who says, yeah, trans people should be killed by the government. And that law that says you should stone gay people is perfect and it is love. So, yeah, I'm going to talk about that because we have people rising up in his name targeting who? Minorities. The tweet I saw from a black woman on Twitter went right to us, and we don't have shit to do with it. Right on cue. It's right on, it's predictable, and it's very, very sad. What were you saying, John?
Well, you know what that means, though? It means now that Mr. Kirk is dead, that means he's now a martyr, which means the person who did the shooting actually did him a favor.
There absolutely is a view there that, yes, this is another reason number 120th on the list. Reason number one is it's just morally reprehensible. But yes, don't kill politicians because you create a counter movement in their favor. There's very sympathetic. If you're a horrible person, this is a message for you. If you're a horrible person and you're considering political violence of any kind, throwing bricks at somebody or shooting somebody, maybe that reason will sink in. Don't do it, right? You kill a politician and all of a sudden they gain all sorts of fame and sympathy and all sorts of things. And it creates a martyr. I agree with you, John.
John, I hate to say this, but we've been on this call for quite a while. I need to move on. I've got some announcements I got to make. I have other calls. And as always, John, I'm really happy to talk to you. I know we often disagree, but I think you and I always have some really good conversations. So I hope next time I'm here, you call me back again. Okay, John?
Okay.
Yeah, right. Thank you very much, John. And I know I got a little hot under the collar there, but I was vehemently agreeing with most of what you said. Yeah, I just disagree with the part where we have to hold off on the conversation, because then we'll always be holding off on the conversation. I think I was in agreement with a lot of what you were saying as well, John. So I think maybe at some points we were just talking past each other. So I really appreciate you calling, John. And I'll talk to you next time I'm on, okay?
Okay, have a good evening.
Yeah, and I was just about to say, and I hope you have a really good night tonight, John.
Yeah,
I hope you do. And a great day tomorrow. Have a great weekend. Hell, have a good weekend.
Friday, John, it's great.
Bye-bye. All right. And that was a pretty good call, I got to say. I do have some things I need to say, though. Like once every week, we talk about, or we honor one of our Patreon members, somebody who donates money to keep this show going. None of us make any money off of it. All the money goes to the show. We're all volunteers here. So I want to thank this week's patron of the week, and it is Victoria Vanderveer.
Yay!
Yes, thank you, Victoria, and thank you to everybody else who donates to us through Patreon at tiny.cc Patreon TW. So we all really appreciate it, because I think this show is worth supporting.
Me too. I really love this show.
Of course, I kind of have to say that, but I still think it's worth supporting.
No, I love this show. It's a little more laid back. Things don't get as crazy, and you get, calls about UFOs. If anybody wants to talk about what happened this week, we had a UFO video in Congress, nonetheless.
I was totally expecting it to call. I have some announcements I'd like to make real quick. A great way to support us is by sending super chats. We did get one from Kelly King. Hi, Kelly. I appreciate you. Get them in. We'll read them as we can. We'll give you a super truth back for sending us a super chat. So that'll happen. The atheistcommunity.org has printable flyers. You can go there and get these flyers. You can put them up with permission. Don't just put them up anywhere. But but you put them on community billboards so that people know to call our show. I have one on the billboard right inside my store. I've gone through like 6 of them now from people pulling the tabs off. When I drove down to Texas, I actually brought some with me, and I had 3 of them. I should have brought more because I had them. They were all gone on the first day, so I hung them up in different places. I'm going to bring more next year. So
absolutely.
And we really want to hear from you. I really want to hear from you. I want to get some feedback on the truth bombs, and so email us at truth@atheist-community.org. That's truth@atheist-community.org, or you can reach out to TV@atheist-community.org, and at our website at
atheist-community.org. There you go.
How could I forget that?
You have to say it 7 times fast, Kelley.
Toy boat. I can do that. So, yeah, I mean, I really do. I really want to get your feedback. If you send us an email, put some comments down below. I was really hoping to get some feedback on the truth bomb last week. I got absolutely none. So help me out here, man.
You need to give me some context, because you jumped in this truth bomb. Somebody made this great comment, and then you followed up with the blue whale heart thing, and I was just like, what? So it's just random.
Yeah, they're just random things.
Facts.
Yeah.
All right, got it. I'm in on it.
And like the most important announcement that I could make here, seriously, the very most important one is that I want to thank the crew. The crew is freaking awesome. Let's get the crew cam up. Without them, I would look like a gibbering idiot. So they are the real magic people and the people who make this all work. So I just come in here and talk. I don't do anything else. I just
focused right in on Greg's dog, to be honest. Like, it's so
right,
cute.
Oh, doggy,
hey, doggy,
puppies.
Thanks, guys. I got to meet a lot of those folks when we came down, and it was great to. I got to see. So for people watching, I got to see what happens in the control room.
There you go. There's your super chat. That one's for you.
That's for me?
Yeah.
How do I invest in relic futures? Yeah. So now I have to do some sort of trivia thing?
Yeah, give us a trivia thing.
Whew. All right, trivia. Boy, I'm being put on the spot. Can I think about it for a minute?
No, you got to come up with these things. You got to do
trivia. I was a Division I of men's and women's volleyball referee when I was younger.
All right, that's good trivia.
There you go.
I'll count that. You were talking about something before I cut you off, though.
That's all right. I was just running my mouth. I don't remember what it was. It was something interesting, but
cool. I didn't remember either, so I don't feel.
It was probably about Greg's dog. That's all I think.
Oh, yeah, it was.
I got to meet everybody down there, and I wanted to tell the viewers, you would be stunned at how much activity there is. They've got a very big control room in a very little house, and they're making so much happen with so little budget that it's me shilling. Yeah, please do, if you can, donate to this organization. They do a lot of good. This is, I think, other than the Freedom from Religion Foundation has a podcast, but it's all promoting their stuff. They don't really do these sorts of debates. I can't think of another charity organization that's doing this for nonprofit. There's obviously other shows out here who do this for a profit. They're free to be much more political than we are, et cetera. But as a charity where everybody here is a volunteer, this place is amazing. So any dollar you can give goes a long way to continuing the work of the ACA.
I'll second that. That really is a labor of love over here. It really is. And with that, I think take another call. What do you think?
Absolutely.
This one looks kind of interesting. It's a Catholic traditionalist, him, says that God is real, has an argument, and if we answer his questions, we'll be admitting the existence of God. So
I have a question, though.
Sure.
If we answer God's questions or if we answer the caller's questions? Because if we can't answer the caller's questions, then it's going to be a real short call.
Yeah. So how you doing, Catholic traditionalist?
Yes, I'm doing very good. How you doing?
Good.
Did I get the relic tier system right? That was for you. Can I call you CT for Catholic Traditionalist?
Sure, that's fine. You can call me CT.
Okay. So did you hear our previous discussion about the relic tier system, the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 relics for the Catholic Church?
No, No, but that's
Okay.
not why I'm here.
I know. I just was
Cool.
hoping that you had heard and I could get some immediate verification. So what's up?
You have the floor. Did we lose him?
I don't know. Are you there, CT? It's a miracle. God intervened and prevented the call.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. Did he drop? You know, I'm going to return him to the queue for a minute, and we'll see what happens. We'll try to pick him up here in a minute. Hopefully, it's not just a technical problem.
Yeah. That's
Or
too bad.
hopefully, it is just like a slight technical problem. We'll have
Right.
him right
Yeah,
back
I'd be
up.
interested in chatting.
Yeah, I was hoping to too. I was wanting to see what his questions were going to be. I had a feeling they were going to be kind of loaded questions that didn't have and he wasn't going to get the answers he was looking for. I was kind of thinking that might have happened.
If you answer the questions, you lose the argument feels like presuppositionalism. It sort of feels like, hey, logic can't exist without God. And so if you're using logic to answer questions, you admit that God exists type of thing. But that's just my guess. I'd be interested to hear what he has to say.
I would love to hear that. So we'll see. We'll keep an eye on the crew chat here and see if they can work that out, or maybe we just lost him. Who knows here? We'll see what we can do. So in the meantime,
I heard from a producer that they're calling back in.
Yeah, I see that too. So in the meantime, let's talk about your podcast a little bit more.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
So what would you like to know, first of all, I guess?
I was thinking, how long have you been doing your podcast?
I've got 2 seasons out, so about 2 years. I'd usually do a handful of seasons, 8 to 10 episodes a season. Like I said, I've been on hiatus, both because it's hard to do as somebody who has to hold down a full-time job and has a kid in college and has a kid who's on the autism spectrum and all of these things going on in life. But I've recently been sort of reignited with my passion. I have a lot of plans for this coming season. So I've been doing it for about 2 years. I've learned a lot in those times. And I do think there's a space in the internet, the blogoverse, the podoverse, for people who are interested in teaching other people. I think that's my interest, and I do think there's a space. I do see videos from other people, like Dan McClellan especially, who creates content that is educational and polite and straightforward. That is getting a lot of traction, and I think the next generation will be very hungry for that sort of information.
I have to cut you off because we got another super chat, and it's again from Kelly King. Love it. I love it. And she donated $5 and says, "You guys make a great call host team." Well, thank you, Kelly. I appreciate that. That was awesome. And that dogs developed that puppy eyes expression just to manipulate humans. They didn't have that originally, like wolves don't have that.
I've heard that. That is a great truth bomb. I also heard that cats don't normally meow in the wild. I don't know if that's a urban legend, though. I heard that cats developed a particular meow to manipulate humans, but I will willingly be manipulated by any cat, dog, prairie dog. I've been seeing baby skunk videos online that are hilarious, but yeah, I will buy into any of that.
I'm just checking in to see if we're ready for the call.
Oh, looks like we might have that caller back. You're right.
It looks like.
Shall we give him a try?
Checking in with the crew. I'm a bad typist. I have to look when I'm typing.
Why don't we roll the bones and see what happens? The relic bones.
So, yes, the relic bones. Researching relics, some of the ones were like Buddha's tooth.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
Who would have figured, right? So they say that he is ready to come back. So let's bring Catholic Traditionalist back. How you doing? Sorry about that.
Yep.
Yes. Can you hear me now? Or
yeah, totally can hear you. Sorry about that.
Okay. Yeah, because I could still hear you guys, and I didn't see that the call ended. So I don't know why.
Yeah, that was weird. It might have been a problem with our call-in program. So that it does happen sometimes.
So what you got for us, CT?
Yeah. So you guys are atheists, right? You claim to be atheists.
Well, I always
claim to be. I guess I claim. What do you?
I always label myself as an atheist, but fair enough.
Why don't we skip the label word and ask like specific questions? So because I think the word atheist is loaded and people use it differently. Should we tell you what we actually believe?
Yeah. Now, with regards to whatever God it is that you don't believe in, could you define that God that you don't?
No.
Believe in?
No.
Speaking about this,
I can't because I on this show, and I'm sure Kelley can confirm this. I get presented, almost every single caller has a slightly different God that they present us. They propose to us. There's lots of gods out there,
which is why I'm an atheist.
And what is ichtheist? I'm not familiar with that one. That reminds me of fish.
Ichthyism is the idea that the question of the existence of God really has no meaning because no two people have the exact definition of what God is. Basically, there's no unambiguous definition of God that everybody uses. So we can't really define whether or not that God exists if we can't define the God first.
That's great. That's a great term. My position's a little different. My position is I have yet to be convinced that there are any gods, but I am open to being convinced. So I'm not saying I am convinced that there are no gods. I have just yet to be convinced that there are any. So everybody who's presented me with some model of a god, I have found wanting. And that's, if you want to call that an atheist, so be it. Some people prefer the term agnostic, but I think linguistically there's a problem with that. But that's my position, for want of a better word. Do you understand where we come from, CT?
Yeah, that's fine. So for the sake of discussion, I'll go ahead and give you my definition of God. And by the way, there are more than two people that share this definition. Like, for example, I'm sure you're familiar with Darth Dawkins, right? And Matt Slick. Right? Yeah,
but I bet if you and him were together, you wouldn't agree on everything 100%. I would guarantee it. That you would not 100% guarantee it. And I'm going to ask you I'm going to say right now, I hope you are not using the Darth Dawkins argument.
Well, with regards to the nature of God, we would be in agreement. Now, perhaps with regards to teachings, biblical teachings, we might not be in agreement. But with regards to the nature,
well, there you go. Then that's what I'm talking about. You're not totally in agreement, and I don't know two people that are. Even the people who are sitting next to each other in the same pew in the same church are not going to agree 100%.
Sure. But with regards to the nature of God, I've spoken to Matt Slick and Darth Dawkins many times, and we're 100% in agreement.
But you're not 100% in agreement about everything about God. And that's my point. You can say you're 100% in agreement about this one thing of God, but not 100% about all of God. And that's the point I'm trying to make. And you keep saying, no, that's not right. We still agree on this one point. Well, I'm not talking about one point. I'm talking about the whole big picture.
Sure, I understand. But there are people that do share my view because I'm a traditional Catholic and there's other traditional Catholics.
And I'm sure that those people do not agree with you 100%.
Can I finish speaking without being interrupted? Am I going to be interrupted every single time?
If you're going to keep saying the same thing over and over, I'm going to interrupt you to tell you yourself. I'm going to tell you the same thing I just told you before. So let's not repeat ourselves and let's move on.
Can I make the point about other traditional Catholics or I'm not going to be able to make that point? You're not going to allow me to make that point?
What, that you believe the same thing 100% as other traditional Catholics? Sure, you can make that claim. I don't believe it.
Is that core to your discussion? How many people agree with you?
Well, I'm just refuting the fact that the individual said you won't find two people that believe the same thing with regards to God, and
I'm sticking by that.
I mean, false. I could make the same argument.
That is false.
Sure, I could make the same argument about you won't find two people who believe exactly the same thing about George Washington. Right? The visualization in one's mind is unique to oneself, if you want to get deep about it, right? So it's kind of an interesting position from a actual, like, what do we know and how much can we actually, like, how much does language limit our ability to convey meaning to each other? And so what is our ability to even check to see if we have identical beliefs about a concept? So we've got linguistic limitations, but we also just have a physical problem of two brains are physically different things. And the way that you model a thought in your brain chemically is going to be different from person to person. So I think we should probably move past that concept to what your point of your call is.
Yeah, let's get to your questions.
Well, we could do that. But I was simply refuting his claim and showing that, yes, if you have...
But you called with some questions. Let's get to your questions.
Okay. I understand. You want to move past this because I was refuting your earlier claim. Okay,
no, we want to move past it because we want to have a productive
conversation.
conversation.
You didn't give me any fucking proof at all. You didn't refute shit. Okay? You didn't. Yeah. You just made a counterclaim. And okay, I accepted your counterclaim. I even said that. Let's move on now.
Right. So let's move on. Don't get triggered. Calm down. No need to get angry and upset.
All right.
No need for
before we move on, I think we need to level set here. All right. I took the time to give you an example of what I meant, or what could be meant, about the physical and logical impossibility of two people to hold the exact same idea at the same time. Okay. I took the time to explain that out. You then got all snarky and started making snide remarks about Kelley and his response and lack of response. And are you going to let me? I very strongly suspect, based on this whole thing so far, that you are not an honest interlocutor. You have no interest in an actual conversation. So I'm going to level set and pretend like this is a brand new call, and I would hope that it's going to be productive. I genuinely tried to engage with you, and you ignored my whole explanation and just kept pointing at Kelley. So let's start again. You called in to tell us something about an argument for God. Could you please tell us what that is?
Sure, I'll be happy to do that. So with regards to God, I'll go ahead and define God for the sake of discussion. Let's say generally God is an intelligent agent who has the power and ability to instantiate and impose all states of affairs and didn't have a beginning like you and I. In other words, not a created being. Now, you don't believe that God exists, right?
I'm not convinced that such a being exists. Are you going to present any evidence of this being?
Yeah, I don't accept the existence of God because I haven't seen sufficient evidence, but I'm not saying that there is no God. Just that I haven't seen sufficient evidence.
Well, you're going to present the evidence, yeah.
No, that's not how this works.
We're not going to play that game.
We're not going to play that game. Knowing who you cited when you called in, I am guessing you're going to make some sort of presuppositionalist argument that try to shift the burden of proof. So let's be clear. Let's be clear about how burden of proof works. All right. I'm an attorney. One of the things I've studied in my studies is, where does law come from? For example, the common law of England, dating back to the Magna Carta. It is a set of rules that we've established that is seeking to find truth using the best systems we can when there's a dispute. And one of the things that have come to rise out of this are the rules of evidence. The federal rules of evidence are sort of the written down version of what we've learned over the last 800 to 1,000 years about what can constitute reliable evidence and unreliable evidence. And at a trial, the person making the claim, just like in logic, the person asserting, the plaintiff or the state who is making the claim, i.e., I'm guilty of murder, or you stole the potato chips, or you put your driveway on my land and you need to move it, that person has the burden of proof. They are the ones who must present evidence to convince the finder of fact, who is the judge or the jury, as to the veracity of their claims. And if they fail to do that, the verdict is for the defendant, the default position of somebody becoming or remaining unconvinced that the plaintiff is right. That is the world we live in. The reason that the courts do this is it is the absolute best system we have to make sure that we don't make conclusions that are false. We don't start with the presupposition that the defendant is guilty and then work backwards and have somebody prove the otherwise. So if you are not going to actually produce evidence for your claim and then try to walk away like you claimed a victory, you do not understand logic, you do not understand history, and you do not understand how humanity works to make the best systems in the world that we can for coming to these sorts of conclusions. So given all that, do you have any evidence for your God?
Yes, I do.
Okay, let's hear it.
Yes, and remember, the premise of this conversation from the very beginning was that you said you were going to accept answering my questions, and that by answering my questions,
no, I did not.
It was going to show that God does exist. Yes,
I did not say I would accept answering your questions. Did you say that, Kelley?
No.
No, we did not say we would accept answering your questions. So stop putting words in our mouth.
I had a feeling that maybe we might not give the answers you want. So, but let's go ahead.
Understand, you guys want to look to drop me because you're not going to be able to answer these questions because they will prove that God exists. So you're looking for an excuse to run away.
So where's your Nobel Prize in philosophy?
Yeah, so it's a tactic that
where's your chair? Where's your chair at a university for logic, reason, math, religion?
Because if you've got you're any smarter than anybody else.
Yeah, if you've got a foolproof proof of God, then you either have to believe a conspiracy theorist to say, yep, this is some sort of proof of God I'm about to give on this call-in show from the atheist community of Austin that should convince anybody that God exists and prove, in fact, that God exists. But there's a conspiracy in the world to suppress and deny it. So that's one position. Or you're full of shit. There's a flaw in the argument, one or the other. So instead of beating your chest and claiming repression and censorship and trying to claim a win without even having an argument, when you know that we're going to actually be skeptical of your claims, why don't you tell me why you are calling this show and not writing up a paper and proving to the world that you have irrefutable proof that God exists?
You've spent 10 minutes arguing and not giving your argument at all. I don't know. And then you're saying it's our fault, but you haven't. And we've asked you to start your questions like 3 times.
Yeah, I was told by the call prompter that you would agree to answer my questions.
And I am not the call prompter.
So you're not going to address anything I just said. You're not going to address anything I just said.
I would agree to hear your questions, but you're not even asking the questions. All you're doing is complaining about other shit. Just ask the fucking questions.
You there, TC?
I think he hung up on us.
Yeah, I'm still here.
There we go.
Here.
Okay, well, what's question number 1?
Yeah, let's just cut to the chase.
Oh,
we will
now
note
you're ready
that
to answer my questions, huh? You're not going to run.
We have been from the beginning. I am getting ready to cut you off because we have been from the beginning. I have asked you 3 times to start your questions.
I have a question. I have an honest question again for you, CT. Do you think that the way you're behaving, i.e. trying to get your debate, let's call it a debate partner, to accept some sort of weird sentence, like you accept that you will answer my questions up front at the beginning of some sort of argument, is a representation of what it's like to have an honest conversation? Why are you being so evasive about that?
That's what the call prompter, when I had the conversation with this individual, he said that
they're not on the call right now.
We're not him. We are not him.
We're not him. We're not him. And the phrasing is what I'm asking about. You're asking if we accept to answer questions. Will I answer your questions? Yes. Is that all you want from me? Is to say, yes, I will answer your questions as I have been all along? Or is this the weird wording of accept that I will answer my questions? Is your argument rely on that? If not, then what the fuck are you doing? Can you just please be an honest person, get off some sort of script, and just have a conversation about what evidence you have of God?
Now, guys, if you're going to go ahead and keep putting me on mute and then taking me off of mute, you got to tell me when you take me off.
I haven't muted you once.
You haven't muted him once, have you?
You have been muting me, but I know for a fact you guys have been muting me.
Nope, have not muted you once. You know what? Yeah. You know what? I'm done with this call because you did not call to have a conversation. You called to whine. You called to whine and complain, and I'm not going to sit here and have you whine and complain.
Let's mark the time. It's been 11 minutes and 48 seconds. In the second call.
I dropped them.
It's 11 minutes and 48 seconds without wanting to get us to agree to some sort of weird thing.
No, it was 11 minutes of him complaining that we didn't want to hear the questions that I asked him 4 times to ask.
Yep.
That's why I dropped his call, because I asked him 4 times to ask his questions. All he could do was complain that we weren't asking him to ask his questions.
I will go back to what I asked about before. If you're going to call in a small internet talk show out of Austin, Texas, with absolute proof that God exists, why? Why are you not writing it up as a professional paper and winning all sorts of philosophy, religion, science awards? Like, if you could prove that God exists, go do it. If you're going to call in here and play word games for 11 minutes about whether or not we agree to or we accept that we will answer questions, to try to put us into some sort of word trap about presuppositionalism, I mean, quite frankly, you're just a drain on society, man. I don't know what you're doing on a Friday night doing that. I'm here for honest conversations, not people trying to do some sort of, it's kind of like those people who do magic tricks by saying, think of a number and multiply this and and haha, I got what your number is. It's like I set up the entire thing so you will say yes to some weird verbiage, and then later I'm going to try to call you on something, rather than saying, okay, let's go back and amend my answer, or let's go back and redefine things. And when you run into that, it's shocking that he would not just engage with us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you know what the purpose was at the end, right?
He had a script and we weren't paying, we weren't on his script. So that it was blowing his whole thing. That was obviously what the problem was. Yeah. We were getting near the end of the show anyway. Okay. So I'm not too sorry for cutting him off. I don't think we would have gotten all the way through his questions before we ran out of time for the most part anyway. I would like to do something real quick though, before we do anything else. And I'd like to bring John back up if we can.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Hi, John. How you doing?
He's not drooling at this point.
That was difficult. Like the meta of that call. It was nothing but meta, by the way. Just constant complaining just about, the interaction instead of like the actual questions that he was wanting to ask, which if it was Dawkins like script, I mean, everybody knows what script he runs. And it was pretty much the script that he ran. I mean, it's right. Call in, complain about getting interrupted or silenced or something like that. And I think the only difference is he couldn't threaten to drop you. Like that was the only
What got me was that he kept saying we weren't letting him talk. And I kept asking him and he just wouldn't. I mean, why even we had 30 minutes of dead air waiting for him to ask.
Yeah. My advice to people who want to engage in this sort of stuff on either side, when you're asked to present your evidence, when you're asked to ask your questions or make a statement, do it, right? This is to put on your big boy and big girl pants and do it. If you were in a court and a judge says, all right, you're witness, and you get up and say, Judge, I really don't think it's fair that the son is this, and the judge will be like, excuse me, are you going to ask questions or not? No? Okay, that's it. Case over. You didn't ask any questions. That's what you're dealing with, okay? We don't have unlimited time. It is our show. We will accept the calls we want. Whether you believe it or not, I have a board up here that I can see calls. You were never muted. So if you just want to call in and be a victim, realize that you are a child trying to play an adult's game. An adult comes in who has a prepared argument and is an open mind and willing to explore the contours of their argument in an intellectually honest way. I have friends where I can go, here's the presuppositionalist argument. Let's explore it. I'll take the pro side. And you can play with the idea and figure out where the flaws are and what the pros are and the cons are. I love that. If you want to call in and do that, let's do it. But if you're just going to call in and say, I'm going to complain until they just have had enough of me and then walk away like I won, you don't understand the difference, as Forrest Valkai said with, I think you, Godless, when you were talking to somebody, you don't understand the difference between can't and won't. It's not that I can't put up with your shit. It's that I won't put up with your shit.
So did you have any other thoughts about the show, John?
Yeah. Okay. So I really thought that the conversation on the prepuce Yeah, of Jesus was
foreskin.
funny. Yeah. So now my question is, and if anybody feel free to answer this, okay? In like Dark Souls and everything like that, like you have like things that you can wear, right? That give you certain special abilities. And I'm thinking like the preface, right? What if it's like a ring and you know you wear it? What kind of magical abilities could you get from wearing Jesus's foreskin? I mean, I think that would be
Would it-
interesting.
Would it work like
that's
a ring?
interesting.
Would it work like a ring of Viagra?
Oh, that's a good one. Like in Dark Souls, it would definitely I don't know. There's some levels where you could walk on harmful stuff like, spike spots. So maybe the walking on water thing, you could not get wounded there. Or maybe it's more like, how in the Gospels or some rule. No, it's Exodus or Leviticus. It's Old Testament stuff where they say men who have had their genitals crushed are not allowed to go to church. So maybe this exempts you from that. If you've gotten crushed genitals, but you've got the foreskin of power, you can still go to church. Maybe that's it.
The foreskin of power. I love that.
Tier 1 relic,
great.
by the way. Tier 1.
That was great. So before we leave, though, John, can you remind us what the prompt is for next week?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I definitely can. I'm so sorry. I put that down for a second. So the prompt for this week that you'll be answering for next week is, what is a job that you could get in heaven? We all want to know. I'm probably a chair. Is what I would do.
Remember to put your comments below in the or your suggestions below in the comments, not in the chat. So we'll see them and we'll read out the top 3 next week. So, and I think Dan will be back to do that for you. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, I was going to ask you for any words of wisdom.
Me words of wisdom?
You know what? How about either one of you? Let's get words of wisdom.
I'll go first, and John can think of things. Since we have the sequel to Spinal Tap coming out, which may or may not be good. I haven't read the reviews yet. I will quote their keyboardist at the end of the first movie, and he said, "Have a good time all the time."
Right
words
on.
of wisdom to live by.
John?
Don't step on a cracker. You might break your mother's back.
There you go.
Wise
that was
beyond
something
his years.
I always paid attention to for a good chunk of the early part of my life. So, and my words of wisdom is don't take anything for granted, and always keep wanting the truth.
Watch The Non-Prophets and join the hosts in the live chat. Visit tiny.cc/ytnp.